about that. As I said, we'll just do sort of 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to start the class. People still coming in. We'll start the recording now. Here we go. Okay, so this is OET Speaking. It's information gathering, and we're going to do a kind of input session where I'm going to sort of talk about what OET want to see, what they're looking for in the OET Speaking exam. I always like to do 3 things in my classes. So basically what we're going to do, guys, today is we'll start off with just asking the question, what is information gathering? Then we'll talk and we'll look at the OET criteria, and I'm going to sort of simplify those for you so you can remember them easier. And then at the end of this class, last sort of 15 minutes, we're going to review question grammar in the context of OET Speaking. And you'll see what I'm talking about a bit more there. Okay, so this is the basic structure of the class. Let's get started, and I'll start by asking, let's ask someone maybe who's I've not chatted to that much. Daniela, could you say hello?
Hello.
Hey, Daniela, could you tell me what is information gathering in your view?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have in information gathering, we have many criteria, are 5.
According to OET, OET have 5 actually, criteria. We'll talk about that in a minute. Can you just give me like the main idea of it? Just to start simple, like give me if you had to explain it to someone who's never done OET before, what would you say information gathering is?
What we are telling to the patient.
Okay, so what we tell, is that the right verb? Ask. We tell? Amajan, you want to come in?
Ask.
Yeah, so what does, let me just ask this question to you. Ednea, can you say hello? Or Fred? Or Gabrielle?
Hello.
Ednea, what does gather mean? What does it mean to gather? Because I think, Danielle, you're confusing this with giving, right? What does gathering mean?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Can anyone help Ednea?
Yeah.
Yes, collect.
Obtain.
So we could say, what is information gathering? It's what we ask the patient to obtain data.
To obtain information.
Thank you.
So that's one definition we could give, right? That's the kind of, it is about asking questions, Amajan, isn't it? Very much. But it's not only about that, actually. Guys, it's also about, if you look at the OET criteria, it's also about clarifying information, I'll say details. And it's also about, beginning with E. Can anyone guess? Maybe Mary? There's probably 3 things here.
Explore.
Almost. E-N.
Encourage.
Explain.
Yeah, encourage, Atifa. It's encouraging, all right? So I think probably the most important one is this, asking questions. If you can't ask questions, you know, in a professional, clear way, then you're going to struggle in this exam because, you know, a nurse and a doctor need to be able to ask good questions. But it's also about clarifying, and it's also about encouraging details as well, okay? As was mentioned by Daniela, they have 5 criteria that deal with this. There are 5 OET criteria. Shall we look at them now? Let's just look at the criteria now and sort of remind ourselves. I know a lot of you will know these already. In fact, let's see if we can, do you remember them? Petruta, could you say hello? Mercy as well, and Sajid. Could you guys put your microphones on? Tayaba as well.
Hello.
Hey, do you remember any of the official OET criteria relating to this idea of information gathering? I mean, I'm not sure if I can remember any, but I've got.
I do not remember.
Sajid, go on.
I do not remember. So,
Sajid, I'll give you a clue. I see.
Active listening.
Listen.
Is active listening one of them? What do you think, guys? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, D1.
It is. Okay. I think also asking questions is one of them. I think that's D2.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Does anyone?
Statements. Have a compound.
Let's have Esther first, and then I'll have Vandana. So Esther, go on, please. If you put your microphone on, Esther. Sorry, I muted everyone there. Esther?
Clarify statements.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's 4 or 3, but there's definitely a clarify one. Okay, what else?
First question.
What else, guys?
Summarizing information.
I think maybe summarizing is one. Clarify, summarize, and the third one I think is no.
Compound.
Guys are great. You can kind of remember it a little bit, right? But today we're going to review it in detail. Okay, so I know that a lot of you guys are a little bit familiar with it, but not everyone here will be. Okay, so let's just take it a bit slower. Let's look, guys, at the criteria and see if you guys, let's see if this is right. Is this correct? Okay, here are the criteria. Number 1, facilitating the patient's narrative with active listening techniques. Yeah, we did. We got that one. Number 2, Amajan, is that asking questions? Amajan, number 2.
Yes, asking question, open to close.
We have compound, don't use compound questions. We have clarifying here, D4. And the last one we do have, this is well remembered by you and me, okay? So what we're going to do today is I want to just take it a bit slower though and think about what this really means, okay? So I'm going to give you guys about 1 minute, okay? Approximately, maybe a bit more. I want you to read this. Just read it again. 1 minute to read, okay? And tell me in the chat box when you're finished. So just read this all again. Think about it. Think about what OET is saying here. And don't worry if you don't know some of the language. I will simplify this very shortly. But let's just stop now and read it. Let me know in the chat when you've finished reading.
Can't see anything, please.
Oh no, it is there. Maybe Fred, just try and change your computer or log in again.
Okay.
Okay, so I can see Sapna, thank you. Vandana, very nice. Just type in the chat box when you've finished reading this. Some of you will know this quite well. Some of you might be a bit new to OET. All right, so it seems like most people are finished here. Okay, so given that we've had a bit of a chance to read this, what I always like to do is, you know, in speaking, it's very hard because you don't have time to think about all this stuff in speaking. So you kind of need to memorize these things in a way, or at least have a really good idea, you know, a simple idea of what OET are looking for. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to simplify this into really simple ideas. And if you're new to OET, okay, I want you guys to study this today. When you're practicing this week, make sure that this is your focus of the practice. Okay, so we're going to simplify this or summarize this, right? And so it's dead easy. And we'll also put in some language examples as well. Okay, so let's get started with Vandana. Can you put your microphone on, Vandana? This is very wordy, Vandana.
Yes, sir.
All of this is very long, isn't it? Can you make that very simple? What is D1? Make it as simple as possible.
First, we listen the patient complaints and simultaneously, in the form of echoing, we show active listening or and then minimum interruption.
Well, echoing is good, but I want to make it even more simple. Guys, what can we write here? Can anyone help?
Active listening.
Should we just say active listening? Well, what does active mean, though? Amajan, what does that mean, active listening?
Without interruption and use fillers. All
right, how about this? Fillers. Filler sounds. And
Yes,
we're going to put echoing. Right? Filler sounds and echoing. Now, what do we mean by this? What is a filler sound? Can you give us an example, Amajan, of a filler?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a class for OET recently on this, and you get these sort of
Non-verbal, yeah.
non-verbal, but you also get things like, who said okay? Was
Like
that-
nodding.
Let's call them fillers as well. Whatever, it doesn't really matter, but okay. What else can you say, guys? Okay, right. What else can
I
we
see.
say?
Fantastic.
I see,
Yeah.
fantastic, okay, right. Let's just say I see.
I see.
Now, you said echoing. So can you tell me, what does that mean?
Like repeated voice.
Repeat
You pick up,
patient
or you
voice.
pick up one things from the speaking.
The last information
Right,
from
yeah,
the
okay.
patient.
Let me ask Vandana though, okay? You guys are right, but she was the one who mentioned it first. So Vandana, echoing is...
Echoing is a repetition of patient word. If suppose patient is telling us, I am doing this exercise or I am playing this sport, then we say, okay, you are playing this sport.
So Vandana, let's try it now, okay? I'm going to tell you about my symptoms and you echo me, okay?
Yes.
So if I say, oh, doctor, I was playing basketball and someone hit my head really hard and it's really, really painful. Oh. What do you
Okay. You are playing basketball and after hitting, you have pain. Is this correct?
Now, is that echoing, guys? That's actually something else, I would say.
Summarize.
What's more like summarizing, Vandana? You just did D5. You summarized and then you checked it well. So I would say that this would be, guys, to summarize. Is it? I suppose it can be like echoing in a way, but it's more, you have a full sentence, right?
Yeah.
Summarize and check. Let's say that this is what D5 means. But Vandana, you could, if it's just echoing D1, you can just say, basketball.
Basketball.
Just choose one word that you think is important, like especially pain. If they say pain, you can go, painful, right? So it doesn't have to be full phrases. I suppose you could echo full phrases as well, but usually it's just going to be like kind of one word. Okay, so guys, I'm not going to focus on this today, but you need to practice it this week. I'm sure Paul and Lawrence will give you feedback. You know, trying to make little sounds, echoing. It's very encouraging for the patient, isn't it? Right? Remember I said we're trying to sort of encourage people. I guess to encourage. These sounds, they encourage people to say more because it makes them feel like you are listening to them. Okay. Now, what about D2? Aranka, could you put your microphone on, if that's okay, Aranka or Bunyamin? Maybe.
Hello, Alan.
D2, what's that? Can you summarize this for me? What does that say here? Make it very simple.
It's about open questions and closed questions.
So we can just write open to
Closed
closed.
questions.
Okay. Can you give me an example of an open question?
How are you feeling at the moment?
Feeling at the moment. And can anyone give me an example of a closed question?
Are
you feeling
Did you?
Anybody?
Yeah, did you? Or yes, no question.
Yes, did you, right? Anything that starts...
Have you taken your medication?
Are you taking your medication?
Are you taking
medication?
Is the pain strong?
Which one?
Now, Gabriella,
Which
what's
one is
the difference, please? Gabriella, just her, please. What's the difference between an open and a closed question?
Open could be about the patient who can talk to you about more information.
They can
answer too much for this question, and closed question are with a response of yes or no.
Okay, let's keep it simple with this. Yeah, so this is a yes/no question, right?
Yeah.
Now, closed questions, I suppose you could also say, you might say, do you like, Wales or Scotland? Right, so that would also be a closed question, I guess. It's not yes or no, but you're controlling what they say. You're controlling their answer. And we're going to talk much more about this in this class, guys. D3, compound questions. Can I ask someone to put their microphone on and help me with this? Maybe Alexia? It's nice to see you, Alexia or Ednea.
Hello, Alan.
What is a compound question? Could you tell me what a compound question is?
2 or 3 questions in one sentence.
Yeah, okay. So no 2 or more questions same time, right? At same time. So that would be a compound question. Can you give me an example of that? Who said that? Was that? I didn't see the name.
Alexia.
Alexia, example of a compound question. You might say like, so are you sleeping well? Give me an example.
And is the pain okay?
Is the pain
Something
okay?
like that.
Okay. So
Something
you
like
can see,
that.
guys, that OET do not like us to ask 2 questions at the same time, or 3 or 4. This is called a compound question.
Sorry, Alan, I have a question, and this because it's very important. In some case note and brackets, there are some example of them. For example, could we use this example together? For example, 2 of 3 them, because if we use them, it may be leading question or not. And for example, not
Well,
condition. I mean, for example.
are you saying, can we use leading questions? Can we use, I mean, this is
Yeah.
quite clear
No,
here.
some of them are leading question, some different condition. Of course, we may ask one by one, but some of them has some example of something. For example, don't drink these things. Yeah. For example, coffee, tea. This can we use the 3 of them in one sentence, or we separate them too?
So don't drink coffee. Don't drink, let's say, caffeine, right?
Yeah.
For example, tea, coffee.
Yeah, those things. Yeah, for example, can we use all of them or one by one?
Interesting question. What do you all think, guys? Is that a compound question? Don't drink
No,
coffee.
it's not a compound question, it's listing.
Not a
It's
question.
not,
for
even,
people.
it's not a question as well, Farak, right?
It's like an explanation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean in an explanation. Yeah, of course, if we use all of them, so it's like leading question.
I don't think you need to, yeah, I don't think, oh, sorry, I didn't need to do that. I'm sorry, Farak. I don't think you need to worry about it. It's fine, okay? When you're explaining things, of course, you can give more than one idea, but then you're going to check understanding. But that's a different class. That'll be next week, okay? What is a leading question, though? Leading question. Ibrahim, could you, there's actually 2 Ibrahims here. Can you guys say hello? We can
Hello.
try Wasana. Nice to see you.
Hello.
What's the leading question? Can you tell me?
Asking you, maybe asking him to respond whether he likes it or not. He might respond yes.
Almost. Could you? It's hard to think of a good example of this. Can anyone here give me a good example of a leading question?
Are you not in pain?
Are you
It
not in
must be.
pain? Well, you could say this. This would be, you are not in pain.
Right?
Aren't you?
Or right. Yeah, you are not in pain, right? Why is that leading? Anyone? Why is that leading?
This question,
Mary.
suppose it's
Maybe they have pain.
Sorry, Amjad, I'll have Mary first and then Amjad. Go on, Mary. So why is that leading? You are not in pain, are you?
yeah, thank you. Because this question, like, supposed to be positive. Yeah, like, no, I'm not in pain. It's like it's
So the
shown the
patient-
doctor back from patient to
That question.
this question answer. Sorry.
Yeah, guys, I hope everyone's following this. The patient feels they must answer one way.
Mhm.
So if I say, Mary, are you enjoying this class, Mary? Oops.
Yes.
To mute that then, so I didn't even hear the answer.
Never mind.
If I say, guys, sorry, I didn't hear you guys then. If I say, are you enjoying this class? Of course, that's a leading question. It would be very rude to say no, okay? So what OET is saying here is, if you do this, you're pushing a patient into an answer. You can lose marks, okay? Which I think is a good thing, actually. Okay, number 4. Let's just get number 4 done, and then we'll look at common errors. Kanku, can you say hello, Kanku?
Sorry, Alan.
Please.
Alan, I want to ask you that we are not supposed to ask leading questions.
Yes, so I'm going to highlight it so you're not. So
Okay.
leading, and just to, we haven't also got a definition here as well. I'll put a definition on the board, guys. Leading question is, well, I've got it here. Patient feels must answer one way. Okay.
Yes.
Let me say pressure a patient to answer one way. Okay. I'll
Right.
try to simplify this a bit more, but does that make sense, Tayaba?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
And again, we can review this. Lawrence and Paul will review this week. It's fairly clear. I don't see them that often, to be honest. I don't hear people doing them that often. Okay, D4. D4 is clarify statements which are vague or need amplification. What does vague mean? Ednea, Bunyamin, Bogdan, Ahmadjan, what does vague mean?
Unclear.
Clear.
Unclear.
Oh, unclear.
And clarify means?
Make clear.
Make clear. So I
Make
guess
it understandable, yeah.
make clear anything not clear. Yes, right. What does amplification mean? Anyone know what?
I hope that is clear.
More than is necessary.
That would be a way to do it. Okay, but what does amplify mean? Anyone? Amplification?
Multiply.
Improve.
Multiply.
And multiply is
Make
not
it
bad
easy.
answer.
Exaggerating.
Exaggerated. I guess I would say, look, if it needs amplification, that means needs to be louder, I guess, or longer. So needs to be louder. Does that make sense? Or bigger in some way. Okay, but I'm going to keep this simple. I'm not going to put this here, right? So it's just, look, if you're not sure what the patient said because it's quiet or because it's too long or something like that, OET are going to reward you in the speaking exam for trying to make that clear. So what can we say? Salim, can you put your microphone on, please? Salim.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Salim, make clear anything not clear. How can I do that? What's the language?
To make clear something not clear.
So imagine
So
I'm your...
I would ask. Yeah, go on.
Sorry again about this noise, guys. 1 second. Apologies. Need to turn Skype off. Go on, please, sir.
Yes, to make clear something unclear, to clarify that thing.
Okay, so let's say, imagine I say to you, blah, 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 blah. And you think, oh, what's he saying? What phrase can you use?
Would you please explain a little more this?
A little more. That's not bad. Can we improve on this, guys? Would you please explain a little more? I think that's more like IPP.
Would you please tell me more? Would you please tell me more?
Yeah, that's not too bad. We need something before maybe here, guys.
Oh, you repeat and ask.
Could you please repeat what you said?
Could you please repeat what you're saying? Okay, maybe that's a bit direct here. Could you please repeat what you're saying? But we're getting close to this.
What do you mean about?
There we go, Ranka. So again, it's a bit too direct, but what do you mean?
Could you explain?
Could you just clarify? Could you just clarify?
When you say this, when you say this, what do you mean by that?
When you said,
can you tell me where you start?
Well, Faraj just said, can you just clarify, which is very nice, right? Or you could say, what do you mean by? So I think this, I'm going to keep this simple today. I'm just going to give you guys 2 examples, right? When you said blah, 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 what do you mean by that, right? Or you could say, when you said blank, can you just clarify that, okay? So your example before, the example before was a bit more like IPP, which is encouraging people to, it's something slightly different, okay? So that's still very good, but it's not quite going to get you D4 in a clear way. I think this is better, okay? So remember, clarify is make clear. So we're going to make clear something that we don't understand, right? Last one, summarize and check. Vandana, you already did it for us. Vandana, can you come back, please? You already gave us a great example of this.
Yes, Alan.
What am I going to say? If I want to summarize something and then check, what am I going to say? How am I going to do that? Do you remember what you said? Does anyone remember what she said? It was very good when she was doing the echo.
Yes, sir. When you are playing football, after hitting, do you have pain? Is that correct?
So something like, is that correct, is good at the end, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Because I'm checking then, aren't I, guys? I'm checking understanding. I suppose here we're supposed to encourage correction. I suppose this is encouraging them to correct you. right? But what do we say before that? Yeah, Najibullah.
Yeah, is it that right? As we see,
Is that right? Or is that right? Yeah, is that right? What are we going to say before that phrase, guys?
As you mentioned, and
as you mentioned, not quite there for Ak, right? You've got to
Yeah, just to,
as you told me, yeah.
Nozad, okay, just to
just to clarify, you said that, and is that correct?
Yeah, well, not to clarify, right? You could say, okay, to summarize.
Summarize or sum it up.
So you might say, okay, so to summarize, you're having a lot of headaches and it's very painful. Is that correct? Maybe that's something we could say here to summarize the information. What other things can we say? Anyone? What else can I say? Okay, to summarize. Amajan, go on. Amajan?
Okay, Alan, so far we have discussed blah, blah, blah. Do you want me to go through any of them?
And then you put summary here, right? Yeah, do. And you could say, is that, you could just say, is that right?
Or Alan, we can say, am I clear so far? Like that?
No, that would be
verification.
Am I clear? Right? You're talking about what you said, right? But you're talking about summarizing what they said and then checking what they said, right? And not am I clear, right? Better to say something like, okay, so to summarize, blah, 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 is that correct? Or, okay, so far we have discussed.
You can say, let me summarize your.
Yeah, there's other phrases as well. Nozad, someone like you, obviously, you can do this in many different ways, really, guys. But the summary is going to go here, guys, in the blank. Okay, you're going to fill in the blank here with a summary. Okay. Okay, questions. I feel like a few people have questions. Put your hand.
Is there anything else you want to mention at the end?
That would be a good way, I guess, is there anything else you want to add? You could say something like that. Yeah. Is there anything else? But
would you like to add anything?
Yeah, these are all good as well. Okay, these are all very nice. You're just trying to get them to say, no, actually, it's not like this. It's like that, right? So remember, we're trying to get them to correct us. That's the key point here. Maybe we did not understand, so that we're allowing them to correct us. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so guys, look, this is an overview of what OET say. And I always like to sort of stress this. I'm sure Paul does it as well. Do you have to do all of this all of the time in cue cards?
No.
No.
Really, no. Okay. When do we do it then? Some of them you can do all the time, actually. Some of them not. Which ones can we do all of the time?
Open and close.
Open and close.
D1,
Probably D1 and D2. You can always do this, almost any situation, Mary, right? You can always make filler sounds.
Yeah.
You can always ask questions. It's probably a bad cue card if you're never asking a question. It depends, though. Maybe you're just listening. But usually D1 and D2 you're going to do all the time. What about D3? I guess this is a negative one, isn't it?
We need to.
We can say we
need to avoid.
It's never good, is it? So I guess we can say these three we're kind of always doing them. But making something clear, D4, D5, we can only do that when
needed.
When needed, right? What if they're very clear? And summarizing and checking, I suppose
we can do that.
You probably could do that every time, I suppose, but I don't think it's, don't worry if you don't do that. Okay. Now, I always say in my classes, I can't do all of this. I'm just going to focus on one. What is the most important one here?
Please, can I ask a question?
D4.
Gabriella, most important. D4? Are you sure?
D2.
No, D2 is very important too.
If you're a doctor,
for gathering, yeah.
Nurse, this one is just so key to your job, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember, Gabriella, when I hurt my back a long time ago, really badly, and I had to go to the hospital. And I was speaking to a nurse, and her questioning was incredible. The questions she asked, open to close, it was just brilliant, right? She was a very high-level nurse. So I really like to focus on D2 because This is where you can really control the conversation. If you're a doctor as well, this will help you to make a diagnosis, of course. All right. So let's focus on D2. And I want to ask you guys, what are the main errors? Because we get a lot of errors with D2. It's probably one of the most difficult.
Grammar.
Common errors, right? Grammar. Definitely the grammar. We'll talk about that in a minute. Amajan, could you put your microphone on?
Yes.
Can we, guys, I'm going to make an error and you tell me what's wrong with this. Okay. So Amajan, so you're the patient, Amajan, I'm the doctor. Okay. So let's say you have a headache. How are you feeling today?
To be honest, doctor, I'm feeling very tired today because of my headache.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you feeling tired?
Yes, doctor.
Okay, guys, what's wrong? What did I just do?
You moved so quick to close.
Response for person.
You are not listening well.
Listen again. I think we did it too fast. There are probably lots of things wrong, actually. Amajan, exactly the same, Amajan. Ready? So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very tired because of my headache, doctor.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you feeling tired?
Yes, doctor. I said already.
What's wrong, guys? He just told me.
Yeah, you forget the previous answer.
Not listening to the previous answer, right? And this is not really in the criteria, but it sounds terrible if you ask a question when he already said it, okay? But it happens a lot in the exam because you're so stressed and you're thinking so much about what you're trying to do. So I think we've got to remember to listen to the previous answer, okay? Another one is grammar. You're definitely right, making grammar errors, and we'll talk about that right at the end of the class. Any other errors? Joy, can you remember any other, if you've seen the video courses, guys, or maybe just think for yourself, what do you think are the common errors with asking questions?
Forget about empathy.
Empathy. So what's wrong with empathy?
You're not listening and you go forgetting empathy for the preview.
Forgetting empathy, guys. Also, don't forget, empathy can be positive or negative. So if they say, you know, oh, my son just graduated from Cambridge, you can say, oh, that's great, right? So giving the empathy before the question. Does that make sense, guys? Often doctors, they're thinking so much about the diagnosis, they forget that she just told you something very painful, for example. So you always want to have empathy before the next question, okay? So make sure you're listening to the previous answer. Don't forget empathy before the next question. Your grammar, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be good. Anything else? Liam, what was that?
You're not moving. No.
Few ideas here. Farak, could you say hello?
Yeah. Yes, Alain.
Can you be my patient and I'll demonstrate this one. There's one more. There's at least 5 here, guys. Okay. But let's try this. Okay. So, Farak, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So, how are you feeling today?
Actually, doctor, I'm good here.
Do you take medication?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. What's wrong with that, guys? Why is that so weird?
No empathy.
It was open and it was closed. Okay, there was no empathy. You're right. I forgot my empathy, actually. You're right. But it was open.
Well, still, you're not moving naturally from open to closed question.
It wasn't a natural movement, was it? From open to...
Yeah. It's just...
What did I need to do there, guys? I needed to ask more
open questions.
So you have to get this natural movement from open to closed. And this is very, very difficult to do because you've got to respond to them. Does that make sense? You don't know, actually. You know, for example, how many open questions should I ask? How many open?
3.
How many closed? 3. Always 3.
No.
No, we don't know.
There's a choice.
It depends upon, I think Paul was talking about this, it depends on what type of patient we have. For example, Mary, could you be my patient, Mary?
Yeah. Here.
Okay, so guys, listen to this. So I'm going to be the patient, Mary. You're the doctor.
Okay.
Okay, so ask me a question.
Hi, Alan. How are you today?
I'm in a lot of pain. I have this headache on the right-hand side of my head. It's just on the temple and it's radiating down the neck. I'm taking paracetamol, but nothing else, and it's really affecting my sleeping.
I see. I'm so sorry, Alan. So you mentioned you have.
Stop there. What does she need to ask a lot more open questions now or not, guys?
No.
Why not? Why not?
Because you are very talkative.
It's very clear.
You already mentioned. Alan, she need to clarify what you mean by using this.
You can ask some more questions, but it's very different, isn't it? From a talkative patient, it's very different from I'm going to say a shy patient. Right, so Mary, we try it again.
Yeah, okay.
So ask me the question.
Hi, Alan. How can I help you today?
Oh, hi there. Yeah, I've got a headache.
Oh, headache. Can you tell me a little bit more about your headache, please?
Yeah, it's really painful. I'm not feeling good.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry to hear that. And can you tell me, please, where your pain is located?
Okay, stop there. So she needs to ask more questions here, doesn't she? Of course, because the patient is shy. Okay, and you don't know what kind of patient you're going to have. Sometimes you can get a very talkative patient in the exam. Okay, but these are the main errors. These are the common errors. Now, this week, guys, I want you to work on these in your groups. When you're practicing in your groups, okay, I want you to please listen to the answers that you hear. Don't forget empathy every time they answer. If it's a bad thing, natural movement from open to closed. You know, think about, are they talkative? Are they shy? How much information are they giving you already? Okay, and also I want, guys, last thing, I want you to think about the grammar as well. So let's talk a little bit about the grammar just to finish this class. And as I said, tomorrow you'll be doing lots of practice and you can review with Lawrence and Paul. But grammar is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I know a lot of you guys know the grammar for questions, but yet you're making, often there's a lot of errors with grammar, question grammar. Why is that? I know why, but let's think about it together. Why is it that even though you know the grammar, you make mistakes?
Less practice.
Nervous?
Nervous, yeah. No practice. All of these things. I study Spanish, and you know, it's sometimes I know something and I know the grammar and I know how to say it, but I cannot remember it fast enough to produce it. It's about producing, isn't it? It's about producing good questions in the moment. And really, I think the best way to overcome this problem is to just kind of have some phrases that you guys always use. All right? I'm not saying every situation always the same questions, but we should probably learn, maybe you could memorize, say, 7 or 8 questions. And then you'll always be able to kind of lean on those. Okay, so let's look at some questions that you can kind of always use. Okay, this is for D2, grammar for D2. Okay, and we'll start with open questions. I want to ask Geetha. Can you say hello, Geetha, or Sapna? You put your microphone.
Hello.
On. Hey there. So Sapna. Okay, open questions.
Yes.
What is a good open question that we can always use in OET, almost every time?
How are you feeling today?
What do we think, guys? Is this a classic or what? How are you feeling? Should it be today?
At the moment.
I prefer at the moment. Okay. The reason is in your introduction, you're probably going to say the word today already in your introduction. So you can reduce your repetition in the introduction. Okay, so this is the classic. How are you feeling at the moment? And guys, we have a question word here. Does anyone know what this is here? And then we have subject. Okay, I'm not doing a grammar class, but I just want to highlight the importance of the auxiliary. Often students will forget the auxiliary.
Yeah.
So if you want to sound really good, really, really native, then try to remember especially you're really fluent, try to remember those auxiliaries. What else can we ask, guys? We can say, how are you feeling at the moment? If we have a shy patient, we might need to.
How can I help you?
How can I help you? That would be like this. That's good, Najibullah. What else can we ask? That's an open question.
What brought you here today?
What brings you here today is good as well. I like that. What if I want to get more from them? What if they are shy and I want to get a bit more information?
Could you tell me?
Could you tell me
a bit more about?
More about that. This is the classic one that most students use. Okay. Anything else we can say? Gabriella, do you know any more? Amajan, you've got some nice open ones like to do with.
Would you mind telling me a bit more about this?
Okay, would you mind telling me a bit more about this? Good. Amajan, what have you got?
Could you tell me with your own words?
Yeah, so in your own words, I'll put you two together, okay? So in your own words, would you mind telling me a bit more, right, about that? So you can see examples, okay? I'm not saying, I'll just put ... here. I'm not saying that these are the only questions you should use, but these are important ones, okay? Maybe you can memorize these. I'll talk about the grammar in a second because it's a bit more tricky. What about closed? Vandana, Sapna, Sahar, put your microphones on, Petruta, Norzad, closed now. If I'm doing a closed question, again, we have the same we ask the same ones all the time. Are you?
Take
any medication? Do you?
Have you?
Is it?
Is it? Yeah, can you? Something like that. So for example, guys, we could say, are you, everyone, are you?
Yeah. Are you experiencing any nausea, vomiting?
It could be anything, Vandana. I like that one because you could put pain, you could put anything here.
Are you a smoker?
Yeah, now what's the grammar of this? What do we call this, guys?
Auxiliary.
Right, notice the auxiliary is here.
Yes, subject.
Usually, but here we start with the auxiliary. We start with the auxiliary for a closed question. Then we have subject.
Wow.
And then there's different possible things we can have after that. Usually it's a verb, isn't it? But here you can see this is a present participle, ing. Okay. Do you? Again, we have the everyone.
Yes. Do you have headache?
And then we have, yeah. Do you have a headache or do you have any
condition? Or do you
exercise?
Do you take any medication for your pain?
That's a classic one, isn't it? Do you take any medication? Okay, so guys, look, write it down. Do you take any medication? Is going to be very useful. Probably, especially doctors, you're going to be able to use that for a closed question quickly. Okay, have you? This is a present perfect question. Can anyone give me an example of have you?
Yes. Have you taken any treatment for this condition?
Okay, have you taken any treatment? For treatment, we would say, have you had?
Have
you been?
Mercy, come on. Let's just have Mercy. Mercy, have you
been taking any medications?
Yeah, have you been taking or have you been, let's say, exercising, just to mix it up, recently? Something like that, okay? Again, guys, auxiliary verb and subject, okay? Try and focus on the auxiliaries when you're practicing this week. Don't say, you experiencing any pain? Try to remember to say, are you, right? Do you, have you? Try to get the auxiliaries in. Okay, so this is open to close. Now, I normally add in one, which is kind of in the middle.
Transition?
It helps if you put it. I think it's better to transition, but it doesn't have to be.
Quantitative.
Say that again, Gabriella.
Quantitative.
That's how you spell it.
Sorry.
That's how you spell it, which is correct, but the pronunciation is quantitative, I think. It shouldn't be really. We should say quantitative. Actually, don't listen to me. Maybe you're right, okay? But probably most natives will just say quantitative. They won't say quantitative, right? It's your choice, okay? Now, these are the ones that I normally find students, even people who are very confident with the grammar, they don't like the grammar of quantitative questions. Because, is it Q auxiliary verb subject? What's the structure of, for example, if I say, how long have you been experiencing this pain, right? What's the grammar of this, Amatjan? Is it the same or different?
No, it is quantitative phrase, how long, then auxiliary verb.
Yes, I'll put Q. I'll just put Q here, question word or quantitative phrase is better. Then what's this?
Auxiliary verb.
Auxiliary.
It's the auxiliary again. Okay. Auxiliary, and then subject.
Subject.
And then there's other things. Usually it's a verb next, but it can be other things depending on the auxiliary here. Okay. So guys, we can say how long, we can say how
much pen you're in.
First we say how
many.
How much?
How many
How
times?
often?
How often? I'm going to put often here, and I'm going to put much many here. Why am I putting much many together?
Countable,
Countable and uncountable. And I won't talk about that today, but just review this or ask questions in class if you want to know. If you want to remember, I'm sure you guys know, but you can review that if you want. If you say how often, what can we say in OET with how often? How often do
you have?
Yeah. How often do you have this session?
Do you have a heart attack?
How often do you have a heart attack?
Symptoms or
how about symptoms? How often do you have these symptoms? Something like that. Okay. Again, guys, it's question word. You do have the auxiliary. It's the same structure, really. It's just a phrase rather than a word. And then we have other things here. Okay. Now, you can do this more. Well, let's just have one more. You could say how much. What can I say?
How much pen you are in?
You are?
You are in.
Is it you are?
You have.
You are in.
It's are you.
Are you in? Okay, yeah.
Again, right, that is the auxiliary. Right?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. This is what, if you want to, you're really good at speaking, Frank. So if you want to get almost perfect with your fluency, focus on the auxiliaries, right? So how much pain are you experiencing? What about how many? What can we say?
How many times do you use medication?
How many times? Or let's try Mercy or Fred. Can you guys put your microphones on? How many what? What can I say? How many? Okay, anyone. How many
episodes of vomiting are you?
Yes. How many times do you have vomiting?
How many doses you take? How many times have you?
These are tricky. This gets a bit difficult. Okay, so I don't want to spend too long on this, but that's strange, isn't it? Does anyone see here that this is slightly odd? We have pain here and we have episodes of vomiting here. Mary, if you could say hello. Alexia?
Yes.
Why am I highlighting these words?
It's important because it's countable, uncountable. It depends much or many. We will use from
So pain, is that countable or uncountable?
uncountable.
Uncountable.
Well, usually it can be countable sometimes as well.
Yep.
And then episodes of vomiting.
It's countable.
You can count an episode, so that would be countable. Also, guys, look, this word here, it's unusual, isn't it? It's not question, word, auxiliary, subject, right? Question, auxiliary, subject. What are we doing here, Amatjan? I'm sure you've seen this before. What are we doing?
Question, word, maybe.
There's something in here, isn't there? Then we have the auxiliary here. See what I mean? Does everyone see what I'm talking about? It's a bit unusual. You can do this with open questions as well, like what car did you buy? Right? What car did you buy? What am I doing here?
Object?
I'm kind of putting an object in there, aren't I? Yeah.
So,
is it the object? I think this is the object. Okay. Or I think, I'm not sure it's the subject. I think it's the object. What's the statement? I had 10 episodes of vomiting. So it's the object. Okay. You can ask Paul and Lawrence more about this in your classes if you're concerned. But I just want to say, look, I know a lot of you, I've taught this for a long time, and I know you guys know the grammar. In my experience, most of you know it really well. but it's difficult to produce it. Okay, so I'm just reviewing this and just trying to say this week, try to focus when you're speaking this week, look at my diagram and try to focus on the auxiliaries, please, guys. Don't forget to put your auxiliary verbs in. How are you feeling, right? Or are you, do you, have you? Okay, auxiliaries are here as well. Do, have, are, have. Okay. How important is grammar in OET? And let me finish with this. How important is grammar? If you make some mistakes here, can you still pass?
Yeah.
No. Yes, you can still pass. No.
It's only one criteria out of how many? How many criteria in total are there in OET?
20.
Well, there's 5 plus there's 9. There's 9 criteria in total. Okay, grammar is only one, so I don't want to stress this too much. Okay, but just try and review this. Ask Paul and Lawrence some questions as well. When you're practicing in your groups, try and pay attention to question grammar. Okay, now I've got 2 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions on this?
I want to ask.
Joy, go on, Joy.
How to ask question like inquire about his or her well-being? Is it okay? How are you doing lately?
I would say, how are you feeling at the moment is better. How are you feeling lately? It sounds a bit unnatural.
Oh, okay.
But definitely, guys, we normally begin with
difficult to make question.
No, go on.
Because it's very difficult to make question that like well-being is general.
Yeah, you could say, how are you feeling at the moment? That's a well-being question. Okay. You could also say, guys, what could we say if we want to ask about well-being?
How have you been?
How have you been? That's a good one. I like that. How have you been recently? How have you been? Okay. But the key thing, guys, is I'm just going to finish on this. When you're doing D2, right, you've got to move from open to closed. That's the idea. But you need to do it in a natural way. So maybe you could ask one open, one quantitative, one closed. Or maybe you can ask one open, one closed. And then you can ask a quantitative and then another closed. It's your choice. You're going to practice this week moving between them. Okay. But remember, quantitative questions are good because you're getting, what does quantitative mean? It's about numbers.
Timeline or timestamp.
Yeah. So look, I'm going to leave this here. All right. I'll send Paul and Lawrence the study document so they can also review this before and tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, common errors, not listening, forgetting empathy, natural movement, open to closed, and the grammar we just quickly reviewed. And don't forget, this is what OET are looking for. All right. I'm rushing a little bit, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Darius.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.